Okay, let's come back to cordyceps, because I was saying to you in the pre-chat, I want to talk about this because this is a very interesting, I don't want to say scary, that's not the right word, but it's almost like a parasitic fungi, right? It's almost like a predatory almost type of fungi. So can you explain to us a little bit about cordyceps in the wild? And then you mentioned the VO2 max. When we're thinking about augmenting performance, I wanted to talk about cordyceps. We can also talk about ginseng and lion's mane kind of in this conversation together. But what would be would you preload it before a workout? Would you take it after the workout? Like what is the best way, based on your, maybe it's based on your goal or your age or your gender or something, but what is the best way to be thinking about cordyceps?
Yeah. Cordyceps is a parasitic fungi, which sounds scary. It's actually do. And there is even a BBC documentary about cordyceps fungi taking over these bullet ants and basically controlling them. So it's gone viral many times, and I think some people might have seen it. It's super safe for humans, but it was discovered in the Himalayas by the Sherpas by observing the yaks, which are the large mammals carrying a lot of goods, were really tired after walking in the high altitude, and then they start grazing on this fungi that grows out of different kinds of like larvae and whatnot in the high altitude. And suddenly they had all this energy and sex drive. So one of the nicknames of cordyceps is cordycex, because of this, like libido impacting effects.
And then the Sherpas would take it themselves and notice the same things, right? So they saw it in the animal study, right? And then they did it in the human study. And they noticed themselves.
So there's a lot of amazing stories like this around the world. Happens to be that the Indians and the Chinese were the best at documenting, and the Amazon was probably the least good at documenting some of these stories. But a lot of the original discoveries were like that, like observing animals, observing nature, and then having the courage to try it yourself. And then it works on. For many, many centuries, people used it. And then later, it's obviously gained a lot of modern research. But how and when to take it is particularly for sports exercise. There's kind of two kinds of benefits, which is actually a good segue to talk about nutrition in general. Is like people are like, hey, how long should I take, vitamin D? How long should I take this and that? I would more look at it as what part of your body are you trying to expect to get results, and how quickly does those cells replenish? So let's just say skin. You want a better skin. Your skin takes, depending on age, genetics, yada, 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 about 30 days to heal. So any routine that is under 30 days seems a little weird to get benefits, right? Moisture level might be the one exception there. But then if you look at energy production, it's really fast. So people who are looking for the ATP production benefits of a little bit like caffeine-free boost, then pre-workout makes tons of sense. So like having 500 to 1500 milligrams of cordyceps extract pre-workout, whatever you would take
for an aerobic type of workout.
No, actually for energy, any type of workout. Okay. So the other part is the VO2 max, which is will take longer based on studies. But to reap the VO2 max benefits, you probably have to be on cordyceps for weeks, if not a month or more, to start accumulating some of those VO2 max benefits. Your lungs will not react as fast as your mitochondria. So again, like let's assume you have spine health issues or brain issues or gut issues. You'd have to know that those systems take months, if not years, to heal. So if you have issues with those systems, you need to have a protocol that you can maintain for multiple years sustainably, versus if you're trying to heal a system that is much faster at reaction, muscular system or circulatory system, you can get benefits today, tomorrow, in a week. So I think sometimes I hear like, how long should I take this supplement? I would almost ask, what is the desired effect that you're trying to get? And that would tell you how long the protocol is. And also, like, if you have gut issues, you should build a sustainable system that you are able to maintain for many months, if not years, to truly heal your gut if you have serious gut issues. So
I love that you're saying this because I think that I get this question a lot as it pertains to weight loss and balancing hormones and women in, let's say, perimenopause and menopause. And it's like, what supplement should I take? How long do I need to take this for? And it's like, well, you're asking the wrong question. It's not what supplement I'm going to take or how long. It's like, who do I need to become in order to have the nutrition routine, let's say, or the supplement routine or the exercise routine that's going to yield the best results over the long term? Because I would assume that anyone who's even if you're not in perimenopause, even if you're in your 30s and you're listening to the show and you're like, I just want to live my best life. Your life isn't 6 weeks. Your life isn't 6 months. It's not a year. We want to be playing the long game. We want to be thinking about how these things can be spread out over you wouldn't just, and this is kind of the example that I give to sort of drive this point home, is like, you wouldn't exercise for a week, or you wouldn't get on the treadmill or go for a walk, let's say, and be like, there, that's it. I did it. I'm fit. It's something that needs to be done over and over again, in the same way that you wouldn't eat a salad or, whatever constitutes a healthy meal for you and say, there it is. I had my healthy meal. I'm now healthy. It's something that has to be there has to be a continuous exposure to that stimulus in order to reap the response that you're looking for.
100%. And let's take the same exercise. Why are you exercising? If your goal is to become stronger or build stronger bones, that's going to take months, if not years, to achieve those results. If your goal is reduce acute stress because you got a bad email or you had a fight with your partner or whatever, and you go for a walk or run, you will reap benefits within 10, 15 minutes probably, because the same exercise that helps you against osteoporosis versus acute stress at home acts different pace, because the body systems are either faster or slower to give you the desired result. So for exercise, for Cordyceps that is looking for pick me up, more energy at any type of workout, pre-workout is fine. If your goal is to have higher, particularly cardiovascular response and performance at higher heart rates, in that case, you probably need to have it for a few weeks, and kind of any time of the day, it accumulates and builds up in your body.
So 500 to 1500 milligrams, you're saying?
Yeah, I would say
daily. Yeah.
And this is somewhat true for all of these adaptogens, is like you need to have them in some sort of extracted form. So they are not bioavailable by themselves. So there's this concept of xenohormesis, where these plants or fungi have built these active biocompounds for themselves. They don't do it for us. They do it for themselves to protect against their stress. Therefore, a lot of these adaptogens grow in extreme environments. You mentioned maca. Earlier, we talked about how it grows in altitude. Cordyceps grows in altitude, ashwagandha, rhodiola in the tundras. And they build these compounds, but they are protected. So usually hot water, lipids, or some ways to unlock it. And then probably any product you see on the market that promotes it has 70, 80 adaptogens or whatever superfoods has none, because just the amount that you would have to consume are much higher. So one scoop of some miracle powder that has 80 of these things is unlikely to give you an effective dose based on the modern research. So for my latest book, we went through 1,000 research papers, and it's pretty consistent that there's slight variations in dosages between adaptogens, but it is some hundreds of milligrams per adaptogen in extracted form to reap benefits.
Great. So Cordyceps is for any type of performance enhancing activity that you want to do. When we're trying to distinguish between, let's say, aerobic or anaerobic, because I know that there's going to be, for example, when we're lifting weights, sometimes we can, depending on the intensity, you can absolutely move into anaerobic systems. So are there other adaptogens that you might recommend, let's say pre or post, for lifting weights and or cardio?
Yeah, and on the anaerobic exercise, I want to say recovery time is pretty big. So even if, let's assume you're doing 5x5 heavy duty, heavy lifting type of workouts with 3 to 5 minutes between those sets, still the impact of recovery is a factor. So I would absolutely encourage even people on anaerobic exercises to look into things that improve recovery times. Other very famous things, pre-workout is rhodiola. It was used by my ancestors, Vikings, before going to battle. It's also used for cognitive support. It's one of the few supplements European Union has said that it's like a natural product that actually increases cognitive function, but it has a compound rosavin that improves performance. Schisandra, which is known in a lot of beauty products, but the original research is actually on a lot of it was one of the original Soviet adaptogens. It increases performance. So Schisandra, rhodiola, cordyceps, those are some of the things. More and more people are using lion's mane for pre-workout as well for nervous system. So there are people who are worried about nervous system damage or the impact of exercise on the nervous system, especially if it's plyometrics or sprinting. And so there's more and more people using that. There isn't as much modern research on that, but I think it's a fascinating concept of using lion's mane with your pro-workout. Post-workout, there is turmeric, reishi, chaga. Immunity is actually inflammation and immunity would be the factors post-workout that you want to be most acutely aware of, is lowering inflammation and then protecting against getting sick. Everybody who's exercised a long time know that one of the biggest problems you have is once you get sick, you have major setbacks. You've made great progress. You're in a row, then you get sick, can't work out, and then you fall behind, and it's very demotivating. So immunity actually post-workout is one of the most important factors to consider that I feel like a lot of athletes or active people ignore.
I agree. And I think if you look at any type of exercise, irrespective of, intensity, duration, frequency, if you look at exercise in general, we see during exercise, we see blood pressure rising, we see atrial fibrillations, we see the immune system tank, we see attenuation in thyroid function. Like, it actually looks very scary acutely, right? We actually look much more worn down. And to your point, from an immunological perspective, we are much more vulnerable immediately after the workout. It's almost like, I don't think this is a fair comparison. I was going to say it's almost like when we have a high bolus of sugar, we actually see about 2 to 6 hours post consumption, we actually see an attenuation in T cell activity and macrophage activity, et cetera. Now, I don't think that those two stimuli are the same, but it is similar in that post exercise, we are much more vulnerable to viral or bacterial infection, let's say. And anybody who works out regularly knows that getting sick is the absolute worst. It is the worst. And what I was going to ask you, and I think I might be doing this wrong, but I like to take lion's mane after my workout. And I know that it has sort of brain boosting effects. It helps with concentration. And I actually sometimes I had it this morning before I knew we were going to be getting on this show together, so that I know that my power of vocabulary and my focus and concentration is on point. But I actually like to take it right after my workout as well. I mean, one of the sort of maybe lesser known benefits to it is, again, with immunity. And I wondered if you could speak to that.
Yeah, actually, I also take it afterwards. We have Four Sigmatic has a protein powder that has 5 of these mushrooms and 2 additional adaptogens, and I take it partly for immunity because lion's mane has those benefits, and partly because I feel like it's interesting the potential of the nervous system recovery factor. But obviously, again, that's not quite well studied yet. So yeah, it makes total sense. And as far as the shock goes, be it sugar or exercise, it puts the body in pressure. I just find it fascinating that people don't talk about immunity post-workout almost at all. And at the same time, think of the situation. You're drenched in sweat. Some people in AC, like sometimes very strong air conditioning. And then you're sitting because you're so tired. You have this euphoria. So you're just sitting in the sweat, recovering for a while and then changing. And I feel like those are risky times to easily get sick. And depending where you work out and how you work out, maybe there's other people who are in the same situation. So bacteria and virus have a good breeding block. So I would encourage people who work out actively and regularly to consider immune support post-workout as a critical way to stay healthy.